Hello, my name's Briers, I'm the Rev, and I'm going to offer a spiritual response to a question that I've got sent today. So this question was sent through Facebook by someone I used to know many years ago, so it's lovely to receive this from them. Is it possible to always pursue individual happiness without hurting or marginalising others? If it is, then what are the key things we need to keep in mind to achieve such a delicate balance? That's a great question. And there's a couple of key components in there. One is happiness, and the other is about kind of individualism and kind of taking care of others. So I'm going to just speak about happiness briefly first, and then really address the thing about, really it's about conscious relationship, one person to another person and to other people. So happiness, often, particularly in the West, we tend to view happiness as pleasure. That I'm happy when I have something pleasurable happen to me. And what I want to just briefly offer is that I think that's a limited idea of happiness. And it's a problematic one too, because you're going to have not pleasurable times in your life. There are going to be things that happen that are tough. So how are you going to sustain a degree of levelness and balance even when the tough things are happening? And what I'd offer is that if you can re-envision what happiness is, then that may help. And the version that I would offer is, instead of seeing happiness as a pursuit of happiness as a pursuit of pleasure, which will also tend to lead towards a lot of the unhealthy social behaviours that we see in the modern world. You know, people drinking a lot or taking a lot of drugs. Now, I'm not against drinking or taking drugs per se. That's your call. It's your life, and live it however works for you. But I would say that, you know, the kind of habitual and addictive behaviours are often about pleasure seeking, thinking that is actually equals happiness seeking. So what I'm going to offer is that maybe a different version of what happiness is to live in accordance with your values. I'll say that again, to live in accordance with your values. If you can know what your values are, what's important to you, and then you can live in alignment, in integrity with those values, then actually, regardless of whether you're having tough times or easy times, whether it's fun or whether it's upsetting, whether you're happy or whether you're sad, if you're able to identify with that idea that happiness is actually to live in integrity with your values, then whatever is going on in your life, it's always in your control. You can always make a choice to live in integrity with your values. You can't always make a choice to have pleasure. You just can't. It's out of your control. And if it's out of your control, then that means your happiness is not in your control either. Whereas if you can re-envision it as living in integrity or living in alignment with your values and know what those values are, then you have the potential to actually be in charge of your own happiness, which is a profound change. I'm speaking briefly about it here, but there's a profound change. So I just want to offer that. And to offer it to you as, you know, if you can get aware of what your core values are and then live in alignment, live in integrity with those, that can be a game changer. That can be a world-changing shift in consciousness. Just that. So the other thing is about conscious relationship. So and individual is a word that's used there. Again, I think particularly driven maybe by American culture, but it's strong in British and other European cultures too. There's this very embedded idea of individualism being positive, and I'm not saying it's not good to have a sense of the individual and not to be kind of constantly sacrificing yourself to the greater good. But often in relationships, and I know I went through a phase like this, I experienced codependent relationships where I was dependent on the other person, you know, maybe smothering them with too much care, too dependent on their appreciation or their love, for valuing myself, so my love for myself depended on someone else loving me. So that's a kind of codependence where my health and safety emotionally is dependent, it's codependent on another person. So that's codependence. And I thought the opposite of that was independence. Yeah, to be able to shut myself off from the world, still have friends, but for there to be nothing in my world that was determined by another person. to separate myself off and be this powerful kind of stalwart, this powerful rugged individualism, kind of the American Wild West. This guy standing alone, this lone wolf who doesn't need anyone or anything. And I don't think that is the opposite of codependence. I think that's actually another kind of codependence in a funny kind of way. It's sort of the same thing, that one is completely dependent on others, the other is completely not dependent on others, which is a myth. Like, I can never be not dependent on others. Like, I can't be completely independent. So it's a way of kind of fooling myself that I'm okay, when actually I'm not okay. I'm just as screwed as when I was completely codependent, just now I'm pretending otherwise. So what I think the opposite of codependence is interdependence. And this was revealed to me by a very wise teacher I had when I was at drama school, a lady called Neve Dowling, who first introduced this idea to me, really. I think I'd probably heard it somewhere else, but maybe she said it at the right moment. But the way she said it and the moment she said it, it really landed for me, of realising, oh, holy cow. The reality of life is that I'm completely interdependent on the whole rest of the world. My food comes from other people growing it. I breathe air. The only way that air stays there is by there being trees to convert carbon dioxide back into oxygen. I'm just completely interdependent on a really basic physical level on the rest of the planet, the rest of the world. If all the trees disappeared from the world, I'd die. And that's true. I could take that out into many different organisms, life forms, and other human beings. So there is a physical reality that I'm completely interdependent on lots of other people and the rest of the world. And actually, that's even more true when I look at myself emotionally. I'm really interdependent on others. I need support from others, and I gain value, a sense of self-worth to some extent, from being able to offer that to others. That doesn't mean I'm dependent on them in a codependent way. That doesn't mean I'm completely propped up by that. I have to find some internal stability in myself. But I can acknowledge that I am completely interconnected to all other things, to all of life. And from that place of interdependence, like really knowing that, when I really invest in understanding that, not just physically but spiritually understanding my total interconnectedness with all and everything. Now, if I completely realise that, maybe that's enlightenment. But even if I can just understand that a bit better, even if I can just invest in that idea a little more fully in the way I live my life, then actually the issue of hurting others isn't really an issue. Because with that awareness, I will always do my best to take care of other people, to the best of my ability and to the best of my awareness. Now, if I hurt someone out without realising it, out of a lack of awareness, of course I feel sad about that, and I don't want that to be the case. But it's not something I can really give myself a hard time about either. It's a learning opportunity for me to be more aware for next time. I have to take it as a learning opportunity, because otherwise it's just a kind of blank excuse to beat myself up. So I think this combination of deeply investing in the sense of interdependence and then growing awareness so that I can just be aware of myself and my impact on the world more and more, that's the key here for me, is these two things, a marriage of these two things, that awareness of interdependence and connectivity through the whole, and the raising of the level of my awareness and consciousness of my actions. So I hope that answers your question, or responds to your question in a satisfactory way. And maybe I'll do some more about those themes another time. So I offer this response as ever, with love.